You're watching Conversationality, a bi-weekly show brought to you by Optionality, your community exploring the now of work. Hi and happy Thursday. Jory Jardins of Optionality here. And with me is Elisa Camahort Page.
Hi, and happy May Day too, I guess.
Oh my gosh, we're in May.
Sorry. Didn't mean to
Thanks
shock
for
you.
that reminder. Yeah, I know. I'm like, okay, what did I pay everything? Did I seriously at the beginning of the month? Welcome everybody. So believe it or not, Elisa and I do talk not just on this podcast. We speak to each other other times, and we got together like in person, IRL, in real life yesterday, and we
Yeah.
were talking about this very podcast and what did we want to do in line with the theme that we have for this month, which is purpose, passion, and priorities. The three P's, because of course everything, especially with the Elisa Camahort page, has to have three P's, has to have alliteration. We like alliteration right here.
I love alliteration. Yes.
But sometimes I think it really works, and this time I think so too. And we were talking about how did we want to address our topic this week, and we hope to bring some more folks who are living purpose, passion, priorities, and the mix. But we thought that we would address it by talking about our own thinking around it. And I had sort of my own realization around it, which was, and this is very recent, that I have been so driven around finding the right balance for that mix of passion and purpose and priorities and profit, right? Sometimes, I mean, profit is a priority, is, paying the bills. A lot of P's here, a lot of P's. So it all fits. But I've often considered if I was off, if I didn't have as much of one or the other, that it was a failure. So if I had the big job where I was paid a lot, but I wasn't particularly getting a lot of purpose out of it, that was a fail. If I had all purpose and this is great, I love working with all of my great companies, but there's not a whole lot of money in it, got to pay the bills, then that was fail. And I think I've taken a very all or nothing, but all or nothing in favor of balance behind all of it versus, all on one, all on another. And I think it's a very fluid mix. I think that while we all may want to have the three P's happening all at the same time, all at a 10, we can't always achieve a 10 at all times, and that's okay. It's still something we can aspire to, and we're not big fat failures if we don't achieve that. That was my big reckoning, my big realization.
Well, I think in general, all or nothing thinking is often counterproductive, or or at the very least, it is depressing. I mean, because you're rarely. I mean, it's that whole oh, you can have it all, just not all at the same time, which I think is pretty reasonable. And if you go all the way back to the first podcast we did for Optionality with Christina Wallace, our advisor who wrote The Portfolio Life, she talked about, because she doesn't talk about portfolio career because she wants you to include your life interests in your portfolio as well. And when she talks about how you're diversifying your life portfolio and thinking about the assets in your life, she, tells a story herself about sometimes she can't fit in. She has often sung in choirs. She's a musician. And, when certain things are going on in her life, she has to go through a season where, she does not have time to do this thing she loves, this thing she's passionate about, this thing that has value, tremendous value. But, it's just not always a fit. She's got to prioritize other things. And that's part of the idea behind, if you're building this portfolio life, as she calls it, and you want to have a lot of optionality in how you're executing on all of that, I think it comes with a need to be able to roll with the punches a little better and be able to have that flexibility. Because if there's one thing, I think we've argued, Jory, in the past, that it's no longer the least risky, most stable choice to have a single W-2 full-time job, as we're seeing for all these poor government workers, who, if there's anyone who thinks that probably might have a job for life, it's a civil servant, right? Because those aren't the most highly paid, and those are the jobs that sometimes are hard to fill. So we've argued that that is not the most de-risked pathway to have a single full-time job. But if there is one thing that's pretty stable about it while you're living it, it's that you have one, you're going to one place of employment. You know what that job is. If they change your job, you usually have a conversation about it. And usually there's new KPIs or OKRs or whatever your objective tracker of choice is. And I think that from a organizing your time and knowing how your focus is going to be pulled point of view, having a single full-time job probably is a little more stable than having an optionality driven life where it's up to you. Do I need one more consulting gig?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do I need one more gig? Do I need to drop this gig because it's making me miserable? But then do I have to replace it with a gig? Do I need to, it's much more, that's why it appeals to so many people. It's that you're the master of your domain, so to speak. You are steering the ship. But that's why it's scary too, because
Right.
it doesn't, it's constant. It's not linear. It's constantly changing.
It seems that, and I talk to a lot of people who are thinking about fractional careers or who are in them and wondering how to sustain them. And I feel like I'm teaching them horse trading because it
Mm,
is a constant recalibration and it's a constant, okay, well, here, where are you on the purpose scale? Where are you on the profit scale? Where are you on the time and other priorities scale? And we always have to remix and think
yeah.
through that. It's
Yeah.
not what you lead with when you're talking to someone who you are, potentially going to be working with. You have to have it together in your own mind. You can't
Yeah.
lead that way, but it is in fact, it's a whole calibration process.
Yeah. But I was thinking about something. Even we had this conversation yesterday, which I think would be interesting to surface for, the community, which is, how do you differentiate between passion and purpose? Because I think they can go hand in hand. I think for some people it feels like it's the same thing. So their purpose is their passion and their passion is their purpose or whatever. But I
Mhm.
actually think they're different words, and they do have different meanings. So I think, yesterday I was like, well, how do you distinguish between them?
And I was like, it's the same thing. What do you mean? That was how I responded until you changed my mind.
Right, because I was talking about my LinkedIn profile, which I did a scrub of last year, I think, partly inspired by our working group around personal positioning, our optionality working group in the premium membership, where we get together and try to help each other. Because it's all the cobbler's children problem, where you're really good at helping other people, but not so great at helping yourself. And so I kind of turned around what my LinkedIn profile looks like. And I decided to list like my values, my like what I bring to the table in a different kind of way. And so I have said for a long time, one of my mantras on the internet is that I'm here to be helpful, not to argue with strangers on the internet. That's how I try to keep myself from getting down rabbit holes. But when it came time to redo my LinkedIn profile, I was like, being helpful, that actually really drives me, like, for a lot of what I do, both in my professional advisory work and consulting work, but also in my avocation, talking about data and politics research and, society. I'm trying to be helpful. I'm trying to like frame things for people in a way that's easy to understand. I'm trying to provide really germane data that is easy to refer to. And so I think it's actually a core value of mine to be helpful. And I think that's actually my purpose. Like, I'm here, just like what I said in my mantra, I'm here to be helpful. Take off the rest of it about not arguing with strangers on the internet. I'm here to be helpful. And then I think about, who is it I want to help? What do I want to help people do or achieve? That's where I apply my passion. right? So I'm here to be helpful and help people understand this value or that value or this, you know, this way to make their company succeed. If you're talking about some of my clients, you know, or even in the optionality community, I'm passionate about this idea that the future of work is now, and we have to start changing minds about what that looks like for people. So I was kind of saying my purpose is to be helpful. My passion is where I apply that help. I apply it to people or areas or issues or values that I'm passionate about. Um, but then you kind of were able to like respin your
Oh yeah.
passion and purpose.
You rewrote mine. It was brilliant, and it's funny because I remember I was like, I have to email this to myself. This is how I remind myself of things
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I
yeah.
talked about, and surely enough, it didn't go through. So, but I want to paraphrase because I know It was so good. I I grow good things, or yeah,
You help good things grow.
I help good things grow. Okay, so I think that's much more succinct. Because I was starting to go down the rabbit hole of, wow, I love AI, I love this, I love that, I love that. And you're like, no, those are your passions. Your purpose is you say that again. I want to write this down.
You help good things grow.
I help good things grow. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. And I have that, like, no matter what, that's what I want to do. It could be a company, it could be an idea. You get me excited about it, and I think it's right, it's good in some way. I'm going to help you do it. So I
Right, and
thank you
I
for
think it
helping
works
me.
also because good can be good. Good is you just define good for yourself. You define
Yeah.
what you are passionate about, and you're going to apply your prodigious skills and your sense of purpose. You decide what to apply it
Yes.
to help it grow.
Future of work
Um,
is a passion.
yeah,
Emerging tech and making sure that we don't ruin the world with it. That's a
yeah,
passion. It's applying it in responsible ways. That's a passion.
yeah. So, so that's how I kind of think about passion and purpose being different. Um, because is there a common thread? You know, that's how I kind of find the common thread between the things I care about professionally, the things I care about politically and personally. You know, it, is there a common theme? And that's what we kind of figured out what your common theme is, which is, and that's really what your purpose is. But then there's another thing, which is another question that I think is worth exploring is that I think a danger or a risk of being big proponents for an optionality driven life is and I think it, before we ever thought about optionality, I think this was also in the influencer economy or creator economy that really BlogHer helped create in the very beginning.
Yeah.
I think there was always this risk and danger that people began to believe that every passion should should be monetizable to be taken seriously. Everything should be monetized. And there's a lot of content. We had content like this at our events and in our in the things we talked about, but it's still really really prevalent, which is how do you basically make a business, even a side business, even a side hustle out of something you're passionate about. When think about like food blogging and how some people were passionate about cooking, and food blogging became a huge part of the creator economy, or crafting, or but are these things, is it okay to have a passion that you want to invest time in, that you want to talk to people about, but to not really feel this need that, oh, it has to be monetized if I'm to be taken seriously? And I think that's a risk of the way culturally we're thinking about optionality and portfolio lives and all of that kind of stuff.
It's so funny, because I agree. Not everything needs to be, right? It's not about monetizing everything. It's not what optionality is about.
Right.
It's also not about over infusing everything with purpose. Like there's a pressure to monetize everything. I think there's also a pressure that everything's got to be completely purposeful and in alignment. And what is my purpose? Because I feel like I'm out of alignment, and nothing can be out of alignment. And
Right.
that's probably more the one that I've put on myself. And I think part of my strategy and something that I've gotten kind of good at around that is about incremental
Mm.
adjustment, right? So, okay, you land a very promising role. It's from the profit side of things, it's lucrative. May not have the purpose, but there are ways you can infuse it, right? Or have incremental, like in the way you manage people when you're at that, because you have a your purpose is to help grow things, right? So you find what are the messaging, the threads. That's how I do it anyway in my particular job, is like what are the messages we can get out into the world that align with better living or with their purpose. If it's not something that I can immediately tie, this isn't a nonprofit I'm working at. This is a
Right.
company that's making money. So what are the ways we can extract purpose in this process, or how you are in that role and how you help people in that role? There's so many ways to incrementally put purpose into something, and perhaps it works the same way with profit, right? It may not be something that you can turn over completely to being your job full time, but maybe there are ways you can monetize incrementally, or or not at all. But it doesn't have to be one and one together, one
You
and
know,
one together.
it it's so interesting because I think you reminded me that when was it? 2022 maybe? I was back. I took a full-time role in an early stage startup. And there were things I missed about being in a full-time role. I missed managing a team with some consistency and like an established framework for managing people. Cause I'm a weird, like mostly introverted person who really likes managing people. And,
She's
and,
good.
and
It,
not
it is.
everybody, not everybody does, extrovert or introvert, but especially introverts. Um, and I missed like having a singular kind of I missed that idea of, oh, I know what my goal every day is around this singular thing, and so it reminded me that I do really enjoy managing people and mentoring people, and I do really enjoy working to marshal resources across an organization to we're all pulling towards a singular goal together as a team. So I miss that aspect of team. And so it was kind of a signal to me like, okay, so I did miss that. There were other things I did not miss. And there were, so it was really interesting learning to say what I liked about both those things, though, it was still that thread of being helpful, helping my people who worked for me achieve more, feel better about themselves, grow, making good things grow or good people grow. What I liked about creating product, working with the CTO to like help make some things, be delivered about the product was again being helpful about I'm not writing the code, and I'm not doing a bunch of things, but what I am doing is synthesizing across these different areas of the company um, how to get this to happen, how to triage the feature set, how to move around the roadmap and really figure out what's most important to deliver when, and then help it get delivered. It's still that thread of where can I help? Where can I come in and help people get to where they want to go? So I thought it was an interesting lesson to me that I'm still good at some things I was good at earlier in my career when I was working full time in places, and I still enjoy them and find purpose in them. Um, and the other interesting thing is that when we started Optionality, we both were in a place where we're like, you know what? We've gotten to a certain stage in our career and we have this wisdom to share, and we want to apply it we want to feel like we're applying this wisdom to things we're passionate about and to feel like we have that purpose. And we feel like we've earned the right to want that from our work. And of course, we had that in our work for many years with Blog Her, right? That was very passion driven, very, very purpose driven, right? And so I think I think we both kind of assumed that it was getting to a certain stage in your career that puts you in that mindset of, I want to have this in my work. But I think we've learned over the last year or more of doing optionality that Gen Z and younger millennials, like they are coming into the workforce saying, how is this on purpose for me?
Yep.
How does this serve my passions? And I think it's one of the biggest reasons I think that employers are going to have to adjust their thinking about workforce development and workforce, how they manage workforces, because I think these younger generations, it's like they're kind of preternaturally mature when it comes to wanting to work on their purpose and to feel passion for what they're doing. And a lot of us who had a very different trajectory in our career, I think it's very natural and human for us to say, oh, those whippersnappers. We all had to do shitty jobs we didn't care about at some point, but I don't know. I just think they have a very different mindset, and it's really changing the hiring equation. And everyone will say, "Oh, this is an employer's market right now." And and I'm like, I don't know if it ever goes back to being an employer's market like it was 20 years ago after the dot-com bust, or like it was 15 years ago after the Great Recession. Because I think people they see a lot more options for themselves.
It's a right, not something that you earn.
Yeah.
Purpose.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves to have that in whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
And we all have a right to find it. It's not like,
Right.
well, once you get the promotion, maybe you can start to think about, you can
Right.
negotiate that in later. No, it's now.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Although
that
we thought
doesn't
it
mean I mean, I've been recently interacting with the healthcare system in a very regular way, and those folks, I could not do the jobs, and or to mention like my mom and the facility where she lives, like they have got to feel a sense of purpose about what they're doing, because I don't know how they would be able to continue day after day. Or maybe just even if you've watched The Pit, recently, and you go, how do those people do that?
oh, yeah.
Well, they've got to feel some sense of purpose, right? And that's not the highest paying job in the world, the easiest job in the world, the most senior level jobs in the world, but they're at every step of the way. I don't want to do any spoilers, but have you finished it?
No, don't.
Oh, okay. So
You
no
already
spoilers.
spoiled part of it. Yes. I'm not done yet.
There's a scene where Noah Wiley's grown up John Carter, but he's got another name. Oh, Dr. Robbie. He gives a speech to the whole team in the ER to praise what just went down and how they performed. And the team was doctors, registered nurses, patient technicians. I think I spotted a couple of I think at one point they show him even thanking the janitorial crew leader, whatever it is, and that team, I'm sure those salaries range across the board, their seniority level and age and across the board. But the point was that they were all part of making that incident, making it through that difficult time, and they all felt a sense of mission and purpose together. And so I think that that's something the knowledge work management will also have to deal with. How do you
That is
make
a
people
master
feel that?
class right there. Master class
Yeah. Yeah.
in purpose and management.
Yeah. 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 So okay, but here's one more question I have for you. Did you Okay, so we articulated your purpose in a different way, right? But I
Yeah.
mean, what if someone says, I don't know, I haven't found my purpose. I don't know, I'm not passionate about
I'm not.
anything. I haven't found my purpose. I think that's something we really need to find a passion whisperer to come help us have that conversation this month, because I think there's a lot of conversation about passion and purpose, and if you don't have one,
Mm.
are you like sitting in the corner going, "Oh, I am missing a key component of," I don't know. I mean, I think how do you go about finding it?
This is like the perennial question,
Right.
right? Um, I am guilty of rewriting my mind like every other day, but I do look for the similarities, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's about thread finding. It's thread
Yeah.
finding. And if anything, I've been starting, and I agree, we need to get someone on here, and we will. I have a few thoughts on that.
Yeah.
But I've also started to, because I've read so many books, I've talked to so many experts, I know so many coaches,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, your body tells you things too. And
Oh,
why is it that certain things you can do without even thinking about it, and you're just going to get it done, and other things like I can't? I mean, it could be the simplest task and I can't get it done. That is because it is at cross purposes with my purpose.
mm.
And I can't always say, oh, well, I can't finish my taxes because it's not my purpose. I still got to finish those things. But it does occur to me that perhaps that's not the best use of my talents, right? It's not what I'm meant to be doing in this world. But there are some things that I can't help it. I could be the busiest person alive, but if you reach out to me with a request, with something that really connects, and I think that you are on mission, you are on purpose, I will move heaven and earth to help connect you. And that's because it aligns with my purpose. So there are glimpses that you get where, despite what's going on in the world, you
Yeah.
will bend over backwards to do it, or you will bend over backwards to not do it. And that's a sign of counter purpose, right?
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah.
truly love analysis and numbers, and it's like the Queen's Gambit. She could see the board. She
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
the moves. I'm like, okay, there's something there, but not for me. Not for me.
That's so interesting. Just this morning, I saw a clip. This is the kind of thing I love that you probably would just never do. I saw a clip of Mark Zuckerberg saying that the reason they're introducing these AI friends on Facebook, which I think is the most insidious, like, what? Like, we're already inundated with and there's this interview with him where he's saying, the average American has, this is exactly his affect too. The average American has like 3 friends, but they want 15. So, and I'm like, where does that come from? So I spent time this morning going down the rabbit hole of studies on friendship. And I mean, he's totally misstating the case, first of all. Yes, the average American has between 3 and actually 5 super close friends. And the majority of people have that many friends. And they don't want 15 friends. They are more likely to say they wish they had more time with the friends they have, or that they could get even closer to the friends they have. But they have other layers of friends, right? They have close friends, good friends, acquaintances. And most people have like 50 good friends, or, people they consider real friends, and 100 people they consider acquaintances. So we're not lacking for quantity of friends. We're lacking for quality. We kind of lost our connections, got severed during the lockdown, even with all the online communicating. And I think we are stumbling coming back to people, right? And but where where was the data to show, oh yeah, and the answer is to add 10 AI friends? Like, anyway, it infuriated me to hear that comment, and to hear that, people like that. I feel like he never rationalizes where he got anything from, so I have to do it for him.
Right.
um but
And
see,
you do this consistently, Elisa. Like,
yes.
no one has to pay you to do it. You're going to
No.
do it anyway.
No. Exactly, exactly. I wish I could get paid to do it. I really enjoy it. Uh, but you reminded me of 2 shout outs. And the first is bringing up the somatic response. You did your deep dive as a video interview with Coach Laura.
Berman
What's her middle?
Forting.
Laura
Laura Berman
Fortgang.
Forting.
Berman Fortgang. Laura Berman Fortgang. And it's on Optionality now. It went out earlier this week. And that was an interesting component of it, to talk about the body and the body knowing, and sort of noting your physical responses to things. And
Yeah.
certainly we've heard other people, Raquel Ellison, who we've had on the podcast, certainly talked about somatic
Yeah.
response and listening to your body. That's not something I'm great at. I'm very like, I intellectualize
In your
things, but
head.
that doesn't
That's
always
mine.
solve things. But the second shout out, I keep shouting out Claire Wasserman and her really good work advice, because I find she has these really snack sized exercises. And one of them, again, is about that, trying to find the threads. If you're trying to position yourself, what are the threads of what you have loved most about what you have done? What are the threads of what you have disliked the most about what you have done? And how can that lead you to crafting, what is your purpose? What are you passionate about? So what is your purpose is sort of like, what are you here to do? Knowing what you're passionate, where are you here to do it? Like, what are some good places to target, right? And then listening to your body and listening to the threads of what you like and don't like, to sort of, how do you make sure you're in the right format of applying those things? So I'll put all these links in the show notes, but I think it's, I don't think you have to earn, as you said. You don't have to earn the right to feel like you're acting on your purpose. And but if you can connect these threads, it's like that line from Jerry Maguire, "Help me help you." Help people see exactly how bringing you in with all your passion, acting on your purpose to work on their problem. Why would they settle for anything less than someone who will have passion and be acting on their purpose to solve your problem?
Boom. That's the
Boom.
quote.
Yes, I'll have to. When this video gets processed with transcript, I'll have the quote. I won't have to text myself.
Yeah, don't use my methodology. Just don't do it.
When you don't hit send, it kind of screws it up there.
You know what happens.
All right, everyone.
All right.
That is this week's Conversationality, and that is this month's theme: passion, purpose, and prioritizing. So have a great week. We'll talk to you later.